All right, so we're diving deep today, and it's all about relationships.
Oh, yeah,
Healthy ones, that is. The kind that lift you up and don't drag you down.
absolutely. The ones that actually feel good.
Exactly. And, this whole deep dive is actually inspired by a prayer that one
Mm.
of you sent in.
Oh, God, that's cool.
Yeah, and it was all about this desire for, well, for relationships to be like a source of strength,
Mhm.
like a real support system.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, who doesn't want that, right?
Totally. But here's the thing that really stood out to me. The prayer also included this quote from Ephesians. It says, "Be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love."
Oh, that's a good one.
Right. And I was like, okay, there's got to be some serious wisdom packed in there.
Mm.
Like how do these virtues, these qualities actually play out in our everyday relationships?
That's a great question. It's like, how do we take these kind of big ideas and make them real?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's one thing to like say, be patient, but it's a whole other thing to actually do it, especially when,
Especially when you're dealing with real people.
oh, tell me about it. Like my family.
Mm.
They can push every single button I have.
Oh, yeah, family's a whole other ballgame.
It is. So how does patience actually work in a relationship, especially when you're feeling anything but patient?
Well, I think what's so fascinating about that quote is it kind of shifts the focus. Like, it's not just about hoping for good relationships, it's about actually building them.
Right?
It's
Right.
like, it's almost like a recipe, you know? You need the right ingredients if you want a delicious outcome.
I like that. A recipe.
Yeah. And those virtues you mentioned, the humility, gentleness, patience, and love, those are the building blocks. Those are
Mm.
the key ingredients.
Okay, but I got to be honest, sometimes patience feels like the hardest ingredient to find.
It definitely can be. It's not always easy.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Especially, like I said, with family. You've got years of shared history, all those little quirks you know about each other. Sometimes it's hard to see past all that.
And it's funny you mentioned family because that's where it can be, I think, the most challenging, but also the most rewarding.
Hmm. How so?
Well, think about it. You have years of shared history, like you said,
Hmm.
ingrained patterns, high expectations, all those things are in the mix.
Yeah, true.
But patience in this context with family, it's not about being a doormat. It's not about letting people walk all over you. It's more about
It's more about.
well, it's about recognizing that people are works in progress. We're all constantly evolving, learning, and making mistakes. And that includes ourselves, by the way.
So it's about giving each other a little grace then.
Exactly. It's giving the benefit of the doubt, choosing to assume good intentions, even when someone's messing up. It's kind of like how you'd hope they do for you.
Right, right. Okay, that makes sense. But I am curious, does this patience recipe, as you called it, change depending on the type of relationship? I mean, we've been talking about family, but this prayer also mentioned friends and colleagues. Those dynamics feel different.
Oh, they totally are. And to your point, the recipe does change a bit depending on who you're dealing with. Each
Yeah.
type of relationship has its own flavor, you could say.
I like that. Okay, so with friends then, what might patience look like?
Well, with friends, I think patience might look like being understanding when plans change, or giving someone space when they need it. You're not demanding they be a certain way or do a certain thing. You're building trust and mutual respect. And that takes time.
Time, yeah, for sure. Okay, but what about in the workplace? I feel like patience with colleagues, that's a whole other beast.
You're telling me, especially since there's often a power dynamic involved. You might have a boss or you might be the boss.
Right, right.
So, in that context, patience could mean taking a breath before you hit send on that super frustrating email.
Ooh, yeah, been there.
Or it could mean actively listening to a coworker's perspective, even if you totally disagree with them. It's about creating a space where people can collaborate, even when there are deadlines and the pressure's on.
Okay, this is actually making me think about the prayer again. The listener was asking for these relationships, all these different relationships, to be sources of strength and support. It seems like cultivating these virtues, especially this idea of patience, that's how you actually build that kind of foundation.
Exactly. It's not just luck, it's an active choice.
In all these different types of relationships,
Hmm.
family, friends, colleagues, they all kind of feed into each other, don't they?
They absolutely do. That's where the interconnectedness comes in. Like if you're practicing patience with your family, really working on it, it might become a little bit easier to extend that same patience to a challenging colleague.
Hmm. Yeah, so the skills we hone in one area of life can actually spill over and benefit our other relationships. Wow, so much to think about. As we start to wrap up this deep dive, is there one key takeaway you'd like to leave our listener with?
Yeah, I'd say this. Think about one specific relationship in your life where you've been struggling with patience. Maybe it's with a family member, maybe a friend, maybe someone at work. This week, choose to see that person and yourself with a little more grace. Give yourself permission to soften a little.
Yeah. Like, what would that look like, practically speaking?
Well, it could be as simple as holding back a sharp remark or taking an extra deep breath before you respond to something that's frustrating. Just one small shift. And then just notice what happens. Notice the shift, both within you and in the dynamic between you and that other person. You might be surprised at the ripple effects.
Love that. A little grace goes a long way.
It really does.
Well, everyone, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.